My girlfriend was secretly seeing someone else and calling me dead weight, so I had my cousin accidentally meet her. She flirted, got her hooked, and made her pay for trips and gifts. We sent her a selfie before blocking her. Now she's broke and begging. I'd never expected to feel like this. My name's Marcus. I'm 32 years old, living in Charleston, South Carolina. I've always been the kind of guy who keeps his head down and works hard. I've been dating Layla for about 2 years now, and for the most part, everything was great. She was passionate, fun, and we seemed to click like puzzle pieces. But over time, something started to shift, slowly at first, like a shadow creeping over the bright parts of my life. It began with little things. Texts from work would set her off. I'd be reading an email about an important project, and Layla would ask who it was. The first time, I brushed it off. Just a colleague, I said, but she seemed uneasy. You're always working with them, she said one night, her tone far too sharp for a casual observation. Do you really trust them? Trust? It was a weird thing to question, but I shrugged it off. Layla was always a little sensitive, right? She was passionate, maybe a little intense. I figured it was just her way. She was a lawyer, too, so I understood how stressful her job could be. But the moments kept adding up. The constant checking of my phone when I left it on the kitchen counter. Her asking who I was talking to, even when I was on the phone with my mom. She started questioning my friends, guys I've known since high school. Are you sure they're all trustworthy? She'd ask, her voice a little too strained, like she was trying to convince herself as much as me. It wasn't that I had anything to hide, but the more she poked, the more it started to feel suffocating. One Friday night, we were out with a few friends at a bar in the city. I was just talking to Evan about a recent project I'd wrapped up. We'd had a good year at work, and I was feeling pretty upbeat. Layla, on the other hand, was unusually quiet. It didn't take long for me to realize something was off. She wasn't speaking to anyone, not even to the people she normally enjoyed. Her eyes darted from me to Evan, back to me. I asked if something was wrong. What are you two talking about? She asked sharply. Her words felt more like an accusation than curiosity. Just work stuff, I said, trying to keep it light. But she didn't seem satisfied. She scoffed, rolling her eyes. Work again? All you ever talk about is work. I bit back a sigh. I had no idea where this was coming from, but her sudden hostility had caught me off guard. I tried to brush it off, but the awkward silence that followed was thick, suffocating. Evan, ever the peacekeeper, switched topics, but I could feel Layla's gaze lingering on me. Then came the jokes. In front of our friends, she would laugh and say things like, Marcus is so busy with his work wife. I don't think I'll ever see him. The crowd would chuckle, but I could tell from the way she said it that she wasn't joking. I could feel the heat of her gaze, and it made my stomach turn. It was as if she was trying to paint me as the bad guy, and I had no idea why. I wanted to confront her about it later that night, but when we got home, she seemed fine. Layla put on her I'm not mad face, and I figured I had imagined it. Maybe it was just a bad night, I thought. But the cracks were there, and they were starting to spread. Something was changing, and I didn't know how to stop it. It wasn't until a week later, when I came home late from a meeting, that it hit me. Layla was sitting on the couch, scrolling through her phone. I thought she was just catching up on messages, but when I walked past, I saw that she was looking at a photo of me and a female colleague from work. A harmless photo taken at a conference. We were standing side by side, both of us grinning. Without thinking, I leaned over her shoulder. What's going on? I asked. She quickly put the phone down, too quickly. Nothing, she said, her voice flat, not quite matching her smile. I could tell she wasn't being honest, but I didn't press her. I went to the kitchen to grab a drink, trying to shake off the discomfort, but it lingered. That night, Layla was different. It was like there was an invisible wall between us. She was distant, colder than usual. When I asked if something was wrong, she shrugged it off, as if nothing had happened. But her body language spoke louder than her words. She was angry. I went to bed early that night, thinking I'd try again in the morning to figure out what had changed. But when I woke up, Layla was already up, already gone. I found a note on the kitchen table. I'm going to my parents for the day. Don't wait up. And just like that, I knew. This wasn't just about a photo or a joke anymore. Something deeper was going on, and I wasn't sure if I was the problem or if she was. But whatever it was, I had a sinking feeling it wasn't going to end well. A couple of days passed since Layla had gone to her parents' house without saying much, and I tried to keep my head in the game at work. But I couldn't stop thinking about everything that had been happening. The distance, The snide comments. The way she'd been checking my phone like she was looking for something. Something she wasn't finding. But I was determined not to jump to conclusions. I didn't want to assume the worst. That's not who I was. But at the same time, something felt off. Then, out of nowhere, I got a call from Damien, my childhood friend. He and I had been through a lot together, from high school pranks to real-life messes. We'd always had each other's backs, and I trusted him more than anyone else in my life. "Yo, Marcus," Damien said on the phone, his voice sounding more serious than usual. "I gotta show you something." I raised an eyebrow. Damien was never the type to call out of the blue, let alone sound like this. "What's going on?" "Just come by the place. I found something about Layla," he said, his tone low. I didn't ask any more questions. Something in his voice told me that this wasn't just a casual check-in. He was onto something. I told him I'd swing by after work and hung up. The rest of the day felt like a blur. I couldn't focus. My mind kept circling back to Layla. What if Damien had found something I hadn't seen yet? What if everything I was beginning to suspect was true? When I got to his place, he didn't waste any time. He pulled up his laptop and opened a browser window, showing me something that made my stomach drop. It was a dating profile. A dating profile with Layla's picture. "What the hell is this?" I muttered, leaning closer. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. There, in the bio section, was a profile claiming she was single, describing herself as someone who was looking for a genuine connection. It even mentioned how she was tired of the drama in relationships, which didn't exactly scream commitment. I felt the blood drain from my face as I scrolled through the rest of the profile. It was Layla's face, her smile. But the words, the tone, it was all wrong. Damien was watching me, reading the disgust in my expression. "That's not all," he said quietly. "I've been digging around, and she's been active on here for the last month. Not just browsing. She's been talking to people, sending messages, flirting." I couldn't wrap my mind around it. Flirting? With other guys? While she'd been acting all distant with me. It didn't make sense. I thought about all the times she had questioned my loyalty, asked where I was, who I was with, and now this? "Jesus," I muttered. "But why would she?" Damien shook his head. "I don't know, man. But this ain't just a coincidence. She's been messing with you, making you feel paranoid. But she's the one playing the game." I ran a hand through my hair. "What do I do with this? What's the next step?" Damien smiled, but there was a hint of something darker in his eyes. "Well, I think we should make sure she knows that you know. We can bait her, get her to make a mistake, and then we'll have all the proof we need." My stomach twisted. I wanted to confront her right then, to throw all of this in her face, but a part of me hesitated. If I did that, would it be my mistake? What if it wasn't what I thought it was? What if I was wrong? I didn't want to come off as crazy, as the guy who couldn't trust his girlfriend. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized I couldn't just ignore this. I wasn't going to let her drag me through the mud and make me look like a fool. "All right," I said, swallowing hard. "Let's do it. I need to know what she's hiding." Damien nodded. "I've got a plan. We'll set up a fake profile. One that's just her type, good-looking, charming, the whole deal. And then, we'll see if she bites. If she does, we'll have all the evidence we need to confront her." I felt a lump form in my throat. I didn't want to go down this road, but I didn't have a choice. I needed to know. I couldn't go on pretending like everything was fine when my gut was screaming at me to pay attention. "I'll help you with whatever you need," I told him. "Let's do this." That night, Damien and I stayed up late, working together to set up the profile. We crafted the perfect message, a mix of charm and humor, then waited for her to take the bait. It wasn't a game to me. It wasn't about revenge. It was about getting the truth. And if she was the one lying, then it would be her actions that led us here. We sat back, waiting, and as I stared at the screen, I couldn't shake the feeling that whatever happened next would change everything between Layla and me forever. The next couple of days felt like I was living in a twisted version of my own life. Every time I looked at my phone, my stomach turned. Damien had set up the fake profile, and we were waiting for Layla to bite. It was the most unsettling feeling, knowing I was about to catch her red-handed. But it also felt like the only way to uncover the truth. I kept telling myself it was the right thing to do. I needed to know, for my own peace of mind, if Layla had been cheating on me. The weird behavior, the distance, the jealousy, it was all adding up now. And this fake profile, James, was the key. Damien had made him charming, funny, and just a little bit mysterious, The kind of guy Layla would definitely respond to. We even got a little creative with the bio, something that sounded just like a perfect match for her. By the end of the second night after we created James, the first message came through. It was simple. A quick, "Hey, I see we have some things in common. You like hiking? I'm always looking for new trails." I stared at the screen, my heart pounding. That was exactly the kind of thing Layla would like. She loved the outdoors, always going on about weekend trips to the mountains or taking long walks along the beach. It didn't take long for her to reply, a little more playful than I expected. "Yeah, I love hiking, but I'm more into relaxing after a hike, you know? A good beer and sunset makes the whole trip worth it." My hands were trembling as I read her words. I hated that I had to do this, but it was the only way I could get the answers I needed. I texted Damien, letting him know she had responded. He told me to keep watching, keep her talking, see how far she'd go. Over the next few days, the messages kept coming. They were flirtatious but subtle at first, just lighthearted banter. Then came the hints. She started sharing personal details, her likes and dislikes. I had to force myself not to vomit every time I saw it. Layla wasn't even trying to hide it anymore. She was playing right into it. Then one afternoon, the tone of the conversation shifted. It became more personal, more intimate. I watched as James casually mentioned a favorite band, a band that Layla knew I didn't like, but that she loved. She responded quickly, "That's funny. I always thought you were more of a classic rock guy. I bet we could do a little trade. I'll introduce you to my favorite band if you let me take you on a real date." That was it. That was the moment. I could almost feel the ground beneath me shift, like the world had suddenly turned upside down. Damien and I had agreed from the start. This wasn't just about catching Layla in a lie. This was about catching her in a betrayal. And I was seeing it unfold right before my eyes. I had been loyal. I had never strayed, never even thought about it. I had trusted her. And here she was, giving that trust away to some stranger she barely knew. I had to do it. I had to confront her. That night, Layla came home late. She walked in like everything was normal, smiling and talking about her day at work. I watched her, my hands clenched into fists. I could feel the storm inside me building, and for a second, I didn't know if I could hold it back. She tossed her bag on the couch and flopped down beside me, but I stayed still, staring at my phone. The conversation between her and James was still open, staring me in the face. Every word, every little flirtation, a punch to the gut. Finally, she glanced over. "What's wrong?" she asked, her voice soft, casual. "Nothing," I said, my voice tight. "Just reading something." I could feel her eyes on me. Her curiosity piqued. She scooted closer, but I didn't look at her. I just kept staring at the screen. "Marcus, what's going on?" she pressed again. And there it was. The moment where I could either stay silent and let it eat me alive or confront her and get the answers I deserved. I turned the screen toward her, showing her the conversation with James. Her face drained of color as she looked at it, her lips parting, as if the words were stuck in her throat. "Layla," I started, my voice hoarse, barely keeping my composure. "Who's James?" Her eyes flicked from the screen to me, and for the first time in a long while, I saw fear. Real fear. "It's not what you think," she stammered, reaching for the phone, but I pulled it out of her reach. "No, Layla," I said, my voice hardening. "It is exactly what I think. I've been loyal to you. I've trusted you. And you're out here flirting with some guy, lying to me." She opened her mouth to say something, but no words came out. The silence between us stretched long, thick with tension. "I don't even know who you are anymore," I said, the words finally spilling out, too fast to stop. "You've been making me feel like I'm crazy, like I'm paranoid. But all along, it was you." Her eyes filled with tears now, her expression desperate. "Marcus, please. I didn't mean for it to get this far. It just happened." I shook my head, my chest tightening. "How long, Layla? How long has this been going on?" I don't know," she said quietly. "It wasn't supposed to mean anything." I felt like the wind had been knocked out of me. "You didn't even care, did you?" I whispered, more to myself than to her. "You thought you could keep doing this behind my back, and I'd never find out." She reached out to me then, but I stepped back, holding my hand up to stop her. Don't even touch me right now." The tears were falling now, and for a second, I almost felt bad. But I couldn't. Not after everything she had done. "Marcus, I'm sorry. I've messed up. I didn't mean for you to find out this way. I was just feeling lost. I didn't know what to do." I stood there, staring at her, every word she said feeling like another slap across my face. I trusted you, I said quietly. And you betrayed me. You betrayed us. I couldn't take it anymore. I couldn't be the fool any longer. I grabbed my jacket and turned toward the door. I'm leaving for a while, I said over my shoulder. We need space. I need space to think about everything. Layla's voice cracked as she called my name, but I didn't look back. As I stepped out into the cold night, the weight of everything, the lies, the betrayal, crushed me. But there was something else, too. Something that felt like freedom. I didn't know where I was going, but I knew one thing for sure. I wasn't going back. Not to her. Not to that version of us. This was the end of something. I just didn't know if it was the end of me and Layla, or the beginning of something new. I spent the next few days at my cousin Brielle's place, trying to piece things together in my head. Brielle had always been the wild one in the family, sharp, independent, and effortlessly glamorous. We'd always gotten along, even though she and Layla didn't exactly see eye to eye. Brielle never liked how Layla had a habit of trying to control everything around her, especially when it came to me. So, when I reached out to Brielle for support, she didn't hesitate. It was her idea to take things to the next level. She'd overheard me venting to Damien about the entire mess, and as I ranted about how Layla had made me feel crazy for so long, Brielle had leaned forward, a wicked grin curling on her lips. You know what you need to do, she said, flipping her hair back like she was about to propose a brilliant scheme. You need to make Layla feel what it's like to be on the other side of this. You need a plan to mess with her head, the way she's been messing with yours. Let's make her think she's losing you. At first, I didn't want to go along with it. But then, the more I thought about how Layla had kept me in the dark, treating me like I was unimportant, how she had twisted everything to make me feel insane, the more I realized I had no other choice. So I agreed. Brielle's plan was simple. She'd pretend to be a stranger at a networking event Layla was going to that weekend, flirt with her, and see how far Layla would go. We needed to see if Layla would bite, if she would want to make a move, just like she had done with James. I didn't love the idea of using Brielle in this way, but honestly, at that point, it felt like the only option. I was sick of the lies. If Layla wanted to play games, then I would let her, but not without some consequences. Brielle had no problem going along with it. She was always confident, always able to charm anyone in the room, and this was no exception. She had the look down. All she had to do was show up at the event looking like she belonged, and Layla would do the rest. The day of the event arrived, and Brielle was dressed to kill. She had on a sleek, black dress that hugged every curve, her hair falling in soft waves down her back. She'd already done her research. Layla loved high-end brands, so Brielle wore the right accessories, making sure everything looked effortlessly luxurious, yet totally casual. I was a nervous wreck, pacing around her apartment as I watched Brielle practice her lines in the mirror. I didn't want to admit it, but a part of me was uneasy. I was about to put Layla through this, and it felt wrong. But deep down, I knew I had to. You ready? Brielle asked, catching me staring at her in the reflection. I exhaled sharply, pulling myself together. As ready as I'll ever be, I said, still feeling the weight of the decision hanging over me. She shot me a mischievous wink. Don't worry, Marcus. She won't know what hit her. By the time Layla texted me to tell me she was heading to the event, Brielle was already on her way. I wasn't sure if I should have been excited or terrified. I felt like a damn fool playing this game. But this wasn't just about getting back at Layla anymore. It was about proving to myself that I wasn't as blind as I'd been. When Brielle walked into the event later that evening, I could tell she was making an impression. Her presence was magnetic. I watched through a live stream of the event, set up through a mutual friend's phone. Layla was there, standing in the crowd, looking poised and perfect, the way she always did at these types of social gatherings. Brielle didn't waste any time. She immediately made her way toward Layla, a drink in hand, offering a friendly smile. I could hear her voice through the phone, soft yet confident, laced with just the right amount of intrigue. So, Brielle said as she approached, tilting her head with a sly smile. I couldn't help but notice you standing here all by yourself. Mind if I join you? Layla's expression flickered, surprise, mixed with just the right amount of caution. She clearly didn't recognize Brielle, but the charm was enough to catch her off guard. I don't think we've met, Layla replied with a polite smile, though her eyes weren't quite as welcoming. Brielle leaned in just a little closer. I'm Brielle. I'm here for the marketing seminar. You? Layla seemed to relax a bit, smiling more genuinely. Layla, I work in law, but I'm always looking for new connections in the industry. The conversation moved smoothly from there, and as I watched them interact from my phone, I could almost feel the tension building. Layla, normally so composed, started to open up. She was laughing at Brielle's jokes, flirting back. I could tell she was enjoying the attention. For a moment, I felt sick to my stomach, but I couldn't look away. Brielle was on fire. She had that effortless way of making someone feel like they were the only person in the room. I could see Layla leaning in, responding to the attention, her walls starting to come down. Brielle would make just enough eye contact, then glance away, a playful smile on her lips. The signals were unmistakable. Tell me, Layla, Brielle asked, after a beat of comfortable silence. What's your idea of a perfect date? Layla hesitated, glancing over at her drink. She said, taking a sip. Someone who's easygoing, confident. Someone who can make me laugh. I can do that, Brielle replied smoothly, her voice dropping just a little lower. But I bet it's hard to find someone who really gets you. Layla let out a soft laugh, but I saw the change in her body language. She was leaning closer now, her eyes more focused. Brielle was in her head, and she was playing the part perfectly. It was a masterclass in manipulation, and I felt a strange mixture of anger and relief. Layla wasn't as faithful as I thought. The person she had accused me of being, she had become herself. From the corner of my eye, I saw Damien's text pop up. It's happening. She's in. I stared at the message for a moment, wondering if I was making a mistake, if I was crossing a line. But then I remembered the late-night interrogations, the jokes in front of friends, the gaslighting. Layla had pushed me to this point, and I wasn't going to let her keep playing me for a fool. As the night wore on, I watched Brielle keep Layla hooked. I knew what was coming next, and when Brielle texted me that she was heading out for the night with Layla's number safely saved in her phone, I felt a strange sense of satisfaction. But that satisfaction quickly turned into something darker. The truth was finally coming out, but at what cost? I had a feeling this was only the beginning. The next few days felt like a whirlwind. Brielle kept me updated about her interactions with Layla, and I tried to focus on work, but it was nearly impossible. Every time I checked my phone, I'd find a new message from her, detailing the next step in their twisted little dance. Layla had been more than eager to continue chatting with Brielle, laughing off her past few serious moments with me, as though they had never happened. She was so easily swayed, so easily manipulated. I had to admit, it was both thrilling and gut-wrenching to watch it unfold. Every text, every little flirtatious line that Brielle would send, would get Layla to respond with more than enough enthusiasm. Layla was telling Brielle about her life, her relationship with me, her struggles at work, and the stress of being in a relationship that, according to her, was just too much work. And yet, with every little confession she made to Brielle, I felt more and more disgusted. It was as if she was already checking out of our relationship long before I had a chance to catch her in the act. The doubts I had kept pushing aside, the moments I had excused, written off as nothing, were all suddenly so clear. Brielle kept digging, but now, it wasn't just about catching her in a lie. Now, we had a bigger plan. Brielle had taken the next step. Layla needed to believe she was losing me. Brielle had been subtly dropping hints that she was interested in Layla, even making small jokes about crossing a line with her new friend. Of course, none of it was real. Brielle wasn't interested in Layla that way. She was only planting the seeds, making Layla question whether I was serious about her. But the real shock came when Brielle texted me late one night, her words sharp with excitement. It's happening. She's talking about you. How I make her feel like I see her. She's all in, Marcus. I stared at the message, my stomach sinking. I wasn't sure what I expected, but it wasn't this. Layla, the woman who had sworn I was the only one for her, was now emotionally invested in someone else. My head started to spin, but I pushed through. This was it. I had to make her face the consequences. The next step was one I never wanted to take, but I couldn't see a way around it. Brielle's plan had reached its final phase. Layla had to start paying. I couldn't help but feel sick to my stomach when I asked Brielle to move forward with the bait. She had to make Layla fall harder, flirt more, and make her question everything. Our relationship, her feelings for me. I had to break her down in a way that would make her regret everything she had done. Brielle was on her way to a hotel for a weekend getaway with Layla, Their first solo trip, just the two of them. Layla had been getting more and more distant with me, and it didn't take long before she'd stopped coming home at night. I pretended to be busy with work, but my mind was racing, wondering what she was doing, who she was with. And then, one evening, after days of waiting, I received the text I had been expecting. Brielle's message read simply, "Mission complete." I stared at the message for a moment, my chest tight. I knew exactly what it meant. Brielle had gotten Layla to reveal her true intentions. She had gotten the proof I needed to confront her with it once and for all. What came next was both heartbreaking and inevitable. Later that night, I sat in the kitchen, replaying every little detail in my head. Every word, every lie, every moment I'd shared with Layla that had seemed so genuine. She was pretending to love me while she was already making plans to leave. But tonight, it would all come to an end. I sat there, waiting for her to come home, knowing she would be met with the truth. She had no idea what was waiting for her. When the door finally opened and Layla walked in, I didn't get up. I stayed seated at the kitchen table, my hands clasped together, staring at her. Her eyes met mine, and for a split second, I could see the guilt in them, the hesitation. "What's wrong?" she asked, her voice shaky. She dropped her bag by the door, trying to act casual, but I saw right through it. "Come sit down," I said, my voice calm, collected. She didn't move. She looked at me, and then she glanced at the door, her body language defensive. "I don't know what this is about, Marcus." I took a deep breath. This wasn't going to be easy, but it had to be done. "You don't know what this is about," I repeated, my voice suddenly cold. "How many people do you think you can lie to, Layla?" Her expression shifted. I could see the panic start to creep in, her breath quickening. I leaned forward. "You think I don't know? You think I haven't seen the messages? The texts, the flirting with her?" I held up my phone, and for the first time, I saw the realization hit her like a slap across the face. She froze. "Layla," I said, my voice sharp now, filled with anger I couldn't keep inside anymore. "I've been more than loyal to you. I've trusted you, but you're out here making plans behind my back, pretending to love me while you're emotionally invested in someone else." She looked at me, her eyes wide, pleading, but I could see the guilt flooding her face. She didn't deny it. "I'm sorry," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "I didn't know how to fix it. I didn't know how to talk to you anymore." I stood up then, my hands shaking. "You didn't know how to fix it?" I repeated, anger building in my chest. "You think this is something I can just fix? Layla, you've been draining me, us, for months. And I let you." I took a step back, running a hand through my hair. "But I'm done now. I'm done playing your games. You don't get to keep lying to me and expect me to just keep forgiving you." She tried to reach for me then, her eyes wet with tears. "Marcus, please. I love you. I made a mistake." I held my hand up. "No, don't even try to pull that. You chose this. You chose to disrespect me. And I'm not going to stand here and let you manipulate me anymore." The silence that followed was thick with tension. I could feel the weight of everything crashing down on us. And in that moment, I knew there was no going back. I left that night, not knowing if I would ever be able to forgive her. But what I did know was that I wasn't about to let her drain me any longer. I wasn't going to be her backup, her fall guy. I wasn't going to let her destroy me. I walked away that night, and with every step, the weight of the situation lifted. The only thing left now was the aftermath, and I wasn't sure what that would look like. But I didn't care. I was finally done. The days following my confrontation with Layla were a blur. I moved into a temporary apartment just a few blocks from the place we shared, unable to stomach the thought of being in the same space as her. The silence between us was deafening, but I refused to let it crush me. I had given her more chances than she deserved. I had to focus on myself now. But no matter how much I tried to push it out of my mind, the situation kept creeping in waves of doubt and anger. I couldn't stop thinking about the lies, the manipulation, how she had treated me like I was the problem. Her gaslighting had been relentless, and now, after everything, I wasn't even sure who the real Layla was. I had only known her version of herself. The version that was perfect, charming, beautiful, but also incredibly toxic. And now, she was starting to make moves I had anticipated. Layla hadn't exactly given up on us. Not yet. I knew this because, a week after our confrontation, I received a message from her. It was a simple text, "I need to talk." At first, I ignored it. I wasn't ready to talk. Not with her. I needed space to think, to process everything that had happened. But the messages kept coming. Day after day, I'd find one waiting for me. Marcus, I can't stop thinking about everything. I don't want to lose you. Please, just hear me out. I've made so many mistakes, but I want to fix this. I don't want to be alone in this. Please give me a chance to make it right. I didn't reply to any of them. Not immediately, but deep down, I could feel the pull, the familiar weight of her manipulation. Layla wasn't ready to give up. I could see it in the way she tried to position herself as the victim now. She had done it before, with her passive-aggressive behavior, twisting situations to make me feel like I was the one at fault. And this time, I wasn't going to let her get away with it. But then, the bombshell came. One night, I was scrolling through social media, trying to distract myself when I saw a post. It wasn't just any post. It was a picture of Layla and me from one of our trips together, the one where we spent a weekend in the mountains. I was smiling, my arms wrapped around her waist, and she had that same fake, perfect smile on her face. But the caption? Life's been so hard, but I'm grateful for the one person who's always been there for me. I couldn't do it without you. I stopped breathing for a second. The post wasn't directed at me. It was directed at someone else. The realization hit me like a ton of bricks. Layla was already trying to sell this narrative, that she was the innocent one, the one who had been betrayed. She was playing the victim card like a pro. But what got under my skin the most wasn't just the manipulation. It was how easily she was moving on. I'm done. That was the thought that kept running through my mind. I had spent weeks letting her drag me into her lies, twisting my own emotions, until I didn't even recognize myself. I wasn't going to let her do it anymore. But I wasn't going to just walk away, either. She had a plan, and I would have one too. I contacted Brielle. It was time to make sure Layla paid for everything. I wasn't going to let her get away with pretending to be the victim. She would understand, eventually, that her games had consequences. When Brielle came over a few nights later, I could see the same fire in her eyes. She had been watching Layla from a distance too, her suspicions growing. Brielle had seen the posts, seen how easily Layla had started building a new life without even considering the mess she left behind. It was time to turn the tables. We set the next stage of our plan into motion. Layla was already spiraling. She had stopped trying to hide it when she called me again, begging for another chance. Please, Marcus, she'd said, I'll do anything. Just come home. I can't live without you. I knew it was a line, another manipulation. But this time, I wouldn't give her the satisfaction. I wasn't going to let her back in. While she tried to pull at my heartstrings, I was busy building my revenge fund. It was time to get her back with the one thing that mattered to her, her money. The money she had drained from me and used to fund her selfish lifestyle. I didn't go back to the house. Instead, I started moving things into a new place. Valuables, important documents, and even some of the things I'd stored in our shared account. Things I knew she'd try to take when she thought she had me cornered. Slowly but surely, I moved everything out, piece by piece, while Layla had no idea. And when she started draining the bank accounts, transferring large sums of money into her own personal savings, I had everything I needed to strike. I texted Brielle the moment it was done. It's time. Let's finish this. I had planned it carefully. Brielle had helped me track the transfers from Layla's account to hers, as well as some other odd purchases she had been making. I was ready to confront her. I waited for Layla to call me again, to beg. I knew it would come. It was only a matter of time before she'd come knocking, and when she did, I would finally have the upper hand. I wasn't just taking back my life. I was going to make sure Layla knew that her games would come at a high cost. A few days passed since the last confrontation, and Layla had been relentlessly trying to reach me. The texts continued, each one becoming more desperate than the last. She had even resorted to calling my family, telling them how terribly I was treating her. Of course, none of that was getting to me. I was set on moving forward. No more games, no more manipulation. Then, one evening, as I sat in my new apartment, the phone buzzed. Layla's name flashed across the screen. My first instinct was to ignore it, but something stopped me. Maybe I was curious, maybe I was exhausted from the silence, but I answered. Marcus, please, we need to talk. Her voice was softer than I had heard it in a while, almost pleading. I didn't respond immediately, but I didn't hang up either. I was curious to see where this would go. I wasn't sure what she wanted, but I knew it wouldn't be pretty. Okay, I said, my voice flat. Talk. There was a long pause, and for a moment, I thought she was going to hang up on me. But then she spoke again, this time with a hint of desperation. "Marcus," she started, her voice shaky. "I've been thinking a lot about everything. I realize now that I've made some huge mistakes. I've hurt you, and I'm sorry. I don't want to lose you." The words didn't have the same effect they once would have. I wasn't moved by her apology, not anymore. Not after everything. "Layla," I said, my tone firm. "You've been trying to play me for a fool. I'm done being your backup. I'm done with the lies. I know everything." There was silence on the other end, and then a sigh. "I know I've messed up, but we can fix this. Please, Marcus. I want to make it right. I want us to be a family again. We were good together." Her words hit me, but only in the most painful way. She wasn't offering change. She was offering the same cycle. A cycle I was no longer willing to tolerate. "You've been playing a game, Layla," I said, letting the words sit heavy. "You don't get to just waltz back in and act like nothing happened. You've hurt me. You've hurt us." There was a long pause, and when she finally spoke again, there was something different in her voice, a kind of coldness I hadn't expected. "Okay, then," she said softly, her voice almost too calm. "If that's what you want. Fine." I frowned, sensing the shift in her tone. "What's that supposed to mean? You don't want to be with me anymore, right?" she asked, her words like daggers. "You're done. I get it. But I need you to hear me out first. I've been thinking about what comes next." I narrowed my eyes. "What are you talking about?" "Look, Marcus, I'm in a tight spot right now. You know how much I rely on your support. And right now, I don't know how I'm going to manage. I need you to help me. You've always helped, haven't you? You always said you'd be there for me." I could feel my blood boil at her words. She was still trying to manipulate me. She was playing the same card, the card that made me feel guilty for everything, even when she was the one who had crossed the line. But I wasn't going to fall for it this time. "You don't get to do this, Layla," I said, my voice shaking with anger. "You don't get to use me anymore. You've drained me. You've taken so much already, and now you want to turn this around and play the victim? Not this time." "I'm not playing the victim," she snapped, her voice rising. "I'm just asking for a little help. Just a loan. I'll pay you back. I know things have been rough, but we're good together. I still want that, Marcus. I still want us." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. She was still trying to reel me in with her empty promises. This wasn't love. This wasn't a relationship. It was her using me as a safety net. "You really think I'd just give you more money after everything that's happened?" I scoffed. "After everything you've put me through? You really think I'm that stupid?" She didn't respond at first, but I could hear the frustration in her breath. Finally, she spoke again, this time quieter. "I don't know what you want from me, Marcus, but I'm asking you one last time. Can you help me?" And that's when I knew. She was trying to trap me. She was trying to pull me back into her world, a world where she controlled the narrative and I was just her provider. "I can't help you, Layla," I said, my voice clear and cold. "Not anymore. You've burned every bridge. I've been more than patient with you. I've forgiven you more times than I should have. But this ends here." I heard a sharp intake of breath on the other end, and I knew she was hurt. But it didn't matter anymore. I wasn't going to be the one she relied on to fix everything. I wasn't going to let her drain me any longer. I hung up the phone, and for the first time in a long while, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. It wasn't over, not yet, but this was a turning point. I wasn't going to let Layla pull me back into her web of lies and manipulation. I had to keep moving forward, no matter how hard it was. The door was closed. She had her chance. And now, it was time for me to walk away. It had been a few weeks since I cut Layla off completely, and the silence between us was suffocating. Every once in a while, I'd get a text, a voicemail, or an email, each one more desperate than the last. She was trying to make me feel guilty, trying to make me feel like I was abandoning her. But I'd heard it all before, and I wasn't falling for it again. Brielle, however, was making sure that my exit from Layla's life was more than just a quiet disappearance. She had been checking in regularly, monitoring Layla's movements, making sure everything was going according to plan. Every time I heard from her, I could hear the excitement in her voice. She'd been sending me updates about Layla's increasingly erratic behavior, and it was exactly what we wanted. Layla was unraveling. As it turned out, Brielle had managed to get even deeper into Layla's life. Brielle, ever the social butterfly, had quickly become a regular in the circles Layla frequented. And through subtle manipulation, she had gotten Layla to trust her more and more. Brielle was feeding her information, pretending to be the supportive friend who understood Layla's struggles. But all of it was just a ruse to keep the tension high. Now, Brielle was texting me, telling me it was time to finish things once and for all. "I've got her in a corner, Marcus," Brielle had said. "She's almost completely cracked. She's planning that damn trip with me, and she has no idea what's coming. She's still convinced she's getting away with everything. It's time to hit her where it hurts." I sat there for a moment, processing the weight of it all. It was hard to believe this was the same woman I had loved for 2 years. The woman I had trusted. I had spent months building this life with her, only for it to crumble because of her lies, her manipulation. But Brielle was right. I had to do this. If Layla was going to keep playing this game, she needed to face the consequences. The plan was simple. Brielle would continue to charm Layla, to keep her close while I prepared for the grand finale. Brielle had arranged a luxurious vacation for herself and Layla, and I was going to let Layla think she was getting the getaway of her dreams. I'd sit back, watching the show unfold, until the right moment came to pull the rug out from under her. Layla, in all her arrogance, had even made the mistake of booking the trip under her own name, using my money to pay for it, of course. She thought she was going to enjoy a lavish vacation with Brielle, free from the consequences of her actions. But little did she know, everything was about to come crashing down. It wasn't just about the vacation. It was about everything. The financial drain, the manipulation, the way she had used me for her own gain. This trip was the final straw. She had no idea that while she thought she was getting away with it, I was carefully moving the pieces into place. Brielle texted me one last time before Layla's departure, the message clear and final. "She's all set. I've got the receipts. She's made her final move. Time for you to make yours." The night before the trip, I packed my things and moved out of the apartment. I'd already taken everything important, the documents, the valuables, and most of my personal belongings. Layla had no idea that I was completely gone. She thought I was just away on business, giving her the space she needed to figure things out. I took one last look around the apartment we had shared. The place that once felt like home now felt like a tomb. A tomb of lies. Before I left, I made sure everything was in place. I had the final piece, the package of evidence. Texts, photos, screenshots of the money transfers, and all of Layla's lies. I had it all printed out, neatly arranged in an envelope. It was her betrayal, laid out in black and white. And tomorrow, it would all come crashing down. I couldn't bring myself to be angry anymore. I wasn't going to let my emotions control me. I'd played this game for long enough. It was time for Layla to face the truth. That night, I moved into my new place, feeling the weight of the finality of it all. But at the same time, there was a strange sense of relief. I was free. The morning of the trip, I woke up to find a final text from Brielle. It was a photo of Layla, standing at the airport, looking completely unaware of the storm that was about to hit her. She was dressed in her vacation clothes, grinning, ready to leave with her new friend, Brielle. But Brielle wasn't just her new friend. She was the final piece of my plan. She was the one who would watch the chaos unfold, the one who would make sure Layla knew exactly what was coming. I stood up from my couch, looking at the photo. "Time to watch it burn," Brielle had texted. I took a deep breath, grabbed the package of evidence, and walked out the door. The moment had arrived. I arrived at the airport just as Layla was checking in. Brielle, as promised, had gotten there early and was already watching the scene unfold. I could see Layla standing at the gate, her luggage in tow, completely oblivious to the storm that was coming for her. It was almost too perfect. Layla, still believing she was getting away with everything, waiting to board her flight. She had no idea what was about to happen. I stepped into the terminal, keeping my distance, waiting for the right moment. I could feel the tension building in my chest. This was it. There was no turning back now. Brielle gave me a nod from across the terminal. The moment had arrived. I pulled out my phone and pressed send on the final text. It was a simple message, sent to Layla's phone. "Hope you enjoy the trip. When you land, I'll be waiting with the truth. Don't forget to check your inbox." Layla's phone buzzed in her hand, and I watched as her smile faltered. She looked down at her screen, her eyes scanning the message. I knew she saw it. And then, as if on cue, her phone buzzed again. The look on her face changed from confusion to fear. I stepped back, feeling a strange sense of satisfaction wash over me. The stage was set. Layla was about to see the truth in full force. And when she returned, it would be too late for her to play the victim anymore. I wasn't going to give her any more chances. She had used me, manipulated me, and lied to me for too long. Now I was done. As I turned and walked away, I felt like I had finally won. Not just the game, but my life back. The days leading up to Layla's flight felt like a bizarre countdown. I kept my distance, watching from afar as she got ready for her dream vacation, oblivious to the fact that I had already set everything in motion. Brielle had been doing her part, keeping Layla engaged with the fake persona and watching her unravel. But the real satisfaction would come when Layla stepped off that plane and found her world crashing down around her. The moment finally arrived. Layla's flight landed in the early afternoon. I knew she was expecting a fresh start, a clean slate, and an escape from all the mess she had created. But the only thing she was about to find was the bitter taste of betrayal and consequence. I wasn't at the airport myself. I didn't need to be. Brielle was already there, watching from the crowd. She kept me updated in real time, each text sending a ripple of anticipation through me. I could feel my heart pounding as I sat in my car, parked a few blocks away, just waiting for the right moment. The texts started pouring in. She just landed. She's still smiling, still thinking everything is fine. She's getting her luggage. It's like she doesn't even know. I'm moving in closer. She's at the gate. She's texting someone. Probably James, that loser. I checked my watch. The moment of truth was nearing. It was almost too easy. Layla, so used to controlling the narrative, so convinced she was getting away with everything, would soon realize that the rug was about to be pulled out from under her. Brielle kept me posted, and as I sat there in my car, the feeling of power washed over me. I had spent so long being manipulated, second-guessed, and lied to. And now? Now, she was the one who was about to face the consequences. Then came the final text. She's approaching the gate. She's looking for Brielle, probably. Let's do this. I took a deep breath, standing up from the driver's seat. The plan was simple. Layla would walk right into the trap. She would think she was about to meet Brielle, the person she believed was her new friend. But instead, she would be confronted with the cold, hard truth. I walked into the terminal, my heart beating louder with every step. I could feel the tension in the air, as if the whole world had paused just for me. The moment I walked past the security checkpoint, I saw her. Layla was standing there, checking her phone, her luggage beside her. She looked radiant, oblivious, like nothing in the world could touch her. Her bright, innocent smile was exactly what I had expected, full of self-assurance, ready to bask in the luxury she believed she had earned. But when she turned and saw Brielle walking toward her, her smile faltered for just a second. Brielle wasn't alone. She was standing beside me now, and Layla's expression shifted from confusion to shock in an instant. She blinked, trying to make sense of the sight in front of her. It didn't make sense. She wasn't expecting me. She wasn't expecting any of this. Marcus. Her voice cracked as she looked at me, her body stiffening. What are you doing here? I didn't say anything at first. I just looked at her. No words, no need for explanations. Layla's eyes darted from me to Brielle, who was standing there, arms crossed, a smirk barely visible on her face. Brielle? Layla asked, her voice trembling now. What's going on? Brielle didn't answer. She just stepped back and pulled out her phone, holding it in front of Layla's face. Layla's eyes widened as she read the message on the screen. Hope you enjoy the trip. When you land, I'll be waiting with the truth. Don't forget to check your inbox. A beat of silence passed before Layla's face turned pale. Her hands started to shake as she held the phone out in front of her, her breath catching in her throat. That's right, I said, finally speaking, my voice low but steady. You've been lying to me this whole time. You've been playing me, pretending everything was fine while you were out there betraying me. Her eyes shot to mine, her expression filled with disbelief. Marcus, please. You don't understand. I can explain. I was just confused. I shook my head. You think you can explain this? You think you can talk your way out of this one? You've been caught. The truth is out now. As Layla's mind raced, I could see the panic set in. She looked around, her eyes darting to the crowd in the terminal, probably wondering who knew, who had seen her crumble. She probably thought she could play it off, act like she was still in control, but it was over. The mask had fallen. Brielle gave her a knowing look before pulling out the next piece of the puzzle, the printed package. I handed it over to Layla with a calm, deliberate motion. What is this? She asked, her voice barely a whisper. But I knew she already knew. She could see it in the way she held the envelope. This is everything, Layla, I said. This is every text, every message, every bit of proof of what you've been doing behind my back. The money transfers, the lies, the photos, everything. Her face drained of color as she slowly opened the envelope. She flipped through the pages, every single page documenting her betrayal. The silent gasps from the few onlookers who had begun to notice the scene unfolding only made her more aware of how public this humiliation was. And then, the most gut-wrenching part of it all, the reality of what was happening, hit her. I could see it in her eyes. She was realizing the depth of her mistakes, the extent to which she had lied and manipulated not just me, but everyone around her. She had thought she could get away with it. But now, she had nothing. Not even a shred of dignity. "I'm done with you, Layla," I said, my voice quieter but sharper than before. "I gave you every chance. But you didn't just break my heart. You shattered it." She didn't try to speak again. She couldn't. There were no more words she could offer, no more excuses she could make. She was exposed. The worst part wasn't her defeat, though. The worst part was seeing how her manipulation had worked for so long, how she had painted herself as the victim. And now that the truth had been laid out in front of her, there was no escaping it. I didn't care about what came next for her. I didn't care if she was humiliated. She had put me through hell for far too long. I turned to Brielle, gave her a nod, and without another word, I walked away. Layla's world was crumbling around her, and it was exactly what she deserved. It had been a couple of months since that disastrous moment at the airport. Since then, Layla had tried everything: texts, emails, even showing up at my new place in person, desperate for a conversation, begging for forgiveness. But nothing she said could change what had already been set into motion. I had seen the truth, and it was a truth I couldn't unsee. I had moved on. Completely. And every day felt like a little victory. I was finally free, truly free, from her web of lies and manipulation. My new apartment was small, but it was mine. I had furnished it with pieces I actually liked, with no one around to tell me that I needed something different or that something was too plain. It was my space. And I could breathe here, something I hadn't realized I'd been missing for a long time. The air felt lighter. I spent my evenings catching up with friends, hitting the gym, taking care of myself. I had time to do things I'd forgotten I loved. Things like reading for fun, cooking meals I enjoyed, or even just watching a movie without worrying about being interrupted with a question about where I'd been. At work, I'd thrown myself back into my projects with a renewed sense of purpose. I had been promoted, and with the added responsibilities, I felt like I was actually moving forward. Not just professionally, but personally, too. I was doing well. For the first time in a long time, I could say I was happy. Brielle had been a rock through all of this, of course. She had been the one who encouraged me to take the steps I needed to reclaim my life. And when I needed to celebrate, Brielle was always up for it. She didn't judge. She just showed up, ready to toast to my freedom. One evening, Brielle suggested we go to the spa for a weekend retreat. "You've been killing it lately, Marcus," she said over the phone, her voice always brimming with that energy that made everything feel possible. "You need to take a breath. We'll head out of town, get some rest, and just relax. You deserve it." I agreed, knowing it was exactly what I needed. It wasn't about running away. It was about finding a moment of peace, away from all the chaos that had consumed my life before. The weekend was everything I needed and more. We spent hours soaking in hot tubs, sipping wine, and laughing about the most random things. Brielle kept me distracted, reminding me of all the things I'd forgotten I enjoyed. I didn't feel that gnawing emptiness anymore. I didn't miss the person I used to be when I was with Layla. That person was a shadow of who I was now. As we were sitting in a quiet lounge area on the last evening of our trip, Brielle looked at me seriously for the first time that weekend. "So," she began, her voice light, but with that sharp edge that meant she had something real to say. "How does it feel to be free?" I chuckled, leaning back in my chair. It had been a while since I had let myself relax fully, and I felt the weight lift off my shoulders as I finally let out a long exhale. "Honestly," I said, looking out at the mountain view in front of us, "it feels like I've been carrying this massive burden for so long, and now, it's just gone. It's like I'm breathing for the first time in years. And I never realized how much it was dragging me down until it was all over." She nodded, her smile wide and knowing. Brielle had been there every step of the way, and she understood. She didn't need me to explain the weight I had been under. She had seen it all: my self-doubt, my guilt, my anger. She had been the friend who didn't just stand by. She kicked me when I needed it, and she picked me up when I couldn't stand on my own. "I'm proud of you," she said, her eyes softening. "I've seen you struggle. And now look at you. You've got it together." The truth was, I didn't feel like I had it all together, not completely. But I felt like I was finally getting there. And that was enough. A few weeks later, I got an unexpected message. It was from my mom. "Marcus, I just wanted to tell you how proud I am of you. I know you've been through a lot, and I haven't been the best at expressing it. But I see how strong you've become. We're here for you, and we always will be." It was a simple text, but it hit me hard. I hadn't realized how much I needed that validation, how much I'd been holding on to those fractured relationships for so long. My family, despite everything, still cared. It wasn't perfect, but it was something. I didn't respond right away. I took my time with it, thinking about all the steps I'd taken to get here. I had spent so long focusing on what was wrong, on the damage Layla had done, that I hadn't really considered the things I had built for myself. I was better now, and I was going to keep getting better. A couple of months after that, I found myself sitting in a cozy little cafe downtown with Damien, catching up over coffee. He was still the same, his loud laugh, his constant ribbing, but his eyes softened when he asked the question I had been expecting. "So man, what now?" Damien asked, leaning back in his chair. "What's next for you?" I paused for a moment, thinking. I didn't have a set plan, a detailed roadmap. But for the first time, that felt okay. I wasn't in a rush. I didn't need to have it all figured out. "I'm not sure," I said, the uncertainty almost comforting. "But I'm finally open to finding out. Whatever comes next, I know I'm ready for it. I'm not letting anyone mess with me again." Damien grinned, giving me a playful punch on the arm. "Hell yeah, you're not the same guy you were before." And I wasn't. I was different. I wasn't defined by the toxic relationships of my past. I had taken my life back, piece by piece, and in doing so, I had found myself. I smiled back at Damien, feeling a sense of peace settle into my bones. "Yeah, I guess I'm not." As I looked out the window, the sun setting over the city, I realized I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was thriving. And no one, not Layla, not anyone, was ever going to take that from me again.